Here's something to ponder. I really sat down for a long time and I thought, what should I call this video? Should I call it New Jersey election? Should I call it Chris Christie's reelection? Should I call it Chris Christie's future? I wasn't really sure what to call it, so I haven't obviously posted this on YouTube yet as I'm delivering it. So I haven't decided what I'm going to call it yet, but you can watch and you can be the judge, of what it should be called. So here's what we do know. That Chris Christie obviously won re-election last night. Terry McAuliffe won in Virginia. Not a surprise. No matter what anybody said, neither of them were surprises. Both outcomes were expected. Chris Christie's was obviously expected for the last year or so. Terry McAuliffe's for the last month or so, maybe a little less than that. But I really want to focus on Chris Christie in the New Jersey election. So I know there's a lot to say, but I want to be, I really did my best the last week or so to really condense everything to very few things, because I could sit and talk about this for 15 hours. So here's what I condensed it to. Something that I've really noticed because I watch the mainstream media, whether that's Fox News or CNN or MSNBC. Those are the major ones, but there are others. I think that they've really misjudged this race and that they've overanalyzed it, and I'm not really sure that they explained it well, because think about it this way. These people are sitting in Washington, D.C. in the studio. Do they really understand clearly what's going on in New Jersey? Most of them are not from New Jersey. Most of them don't live in New Jersey. How could they really, really fully understand? Sure, they understand on the surface, but they don't really understand what's going on down here on the very local level because they're sitting in D.C. They only understand what's going on the upper level. There's an old saying by Tip O'Neill, all politics is local. And they're not local in New Jersey. They're in Washington, D.C., so they don't understand that. And because of that, I think they misjudged a lot of the race. Some people have not misjudged the race. Very few. I know on CNN, they talked maybe for 10 seconds about the truth of the race. And I'm going to attach a link at the bottom right underneath this. Van Jones on CNN, on Crossfire, he did a late-night Crossfire, I think it was about 11:30 at night on election night, and I think he did the best job of explaining what this race really meant, what really happened, and I think for an outsider, he did a great job. So here's what I think really happened. I don't think that this election was as big for Chris Christie as people say, and I'll tell you why. Yes, it was big in the sense that he is a serious contender for the Republican nomination for president. Absolutely. But I think they've sincerely misjudged this race and overdone it. Let me give you a different perspective that nobody in the media has. Think about it this way. Chris Christie won, give or take 60 to 40. Those were give or take the percentages. The absentee ballots haven't been really counted yet. The election hasn't been certified. Give or take, it was 60-40. So he won by give or take 20 points. Well, there were some polls that said he was going to win by 30-35 points. So he didn't live up to those polls. Most polls that I saw, one poll I saw said he was going to win by 18. But basically every other poll that I saw had him up 25 to 35. And that didn't happen. So in that sense, they overestimated him. Also, think of it this way. He ran unopposed. I'm sorry, Babs. I love you, but Chris Christie ran unopposed. He outraised Barbara 6-1. He had 16 ads on television. She had 2. And it was not an even playing field. Think about it. Barbara was not supported by the party leaders. George Norcross, the Southern New Jersey power broker, was a closet Christie supporter. He said he supported Barbara, but he was closeted for Christie. Our good friend Joey DiVincenzo, before, he's not in jail yet, so he was able to support Christie. The all-powerful executive of Essex County, arguably the second most powerful Democrat in the state behind Norcross, or maybe even more powerful than Norcross, supported Christie. This openly endorsed him. The state Senate President Steve Sweeney said he endorsed Barbara, but was another closeted Christie supporter. So Barbara had no money, no attention. The mainstream media didn't even refer to her by name. They just called her Chris Christie's opponent. So she had no money, no name recognition. 40% of New Jersey on the day of the election had never heard of her. Christie was endorsed by 50 Democrats in the state. So she had no money, no name recognition, no ads on television, no support from the party, and still she was able to get about 40% of the vote. So imagine if she had support from the party, if she had money, if she wasn't outraised 6-1, give or take, if she had more than 2 ads to Christie's 16 on television, if she was known outside of Middlesex County, just imagine how close this race actually would have been. Imagine if Cory Booker had run against Christie. Cory Booker would have been able to match Christie dollar for dollar, ad for ad, in the trenches, and this race would have been very, very close if Cory Booker had ran against Christie. I think Christie may have still won, maybe, but probably the race would have been within 2 or 3 percentage points. It would have been interesting. And so that's part of it. So Christie really ran unopposed. He didn't have a real candidate opposing him. The candidate opposing him had no money, no party support, not rogue in the negative sense, but rogue in the sense that he wasn't really running against anybody. Of course you're going to get 60% of the vote when you're not running against someone. When the person you're running against is only a name on a piece of paper, you probably should get more than 60% of the vote. So to think that he got 60% and she got 40%, and sorry, that was my phone. To think she got 60% and he got 40%, and she wasn't even a real candidate, that's a different perspective. So in that sense, the media really missed that. Another thing the media tremendously missed is that he had little to no coattails. Chris Christie was on the ballot yesterday in New Jersey, but also all 120 seats in the legislature were on the ballot. 40 in the Senate, 40 in the Senate, 80 in the Assembly. Now, certain counties voted overwhelmingly for Chris Christie. Overwhelmingly. And yet, he got 60% of the vote. Some counties, he got 70-80% of the vote. Barbara only won 2 out of 21 or 22 counties. And Essex County, the one that she won by a huge margin. The other one was very close. So she almost didn't win that one. Chris Christie did not help state Republicans. They picked up 0 Senate seats. 0. Out of 40, his coattails picked up 0. Out of 80 Assembly seats, they picked up 1. 1 as of now. Most likely 2. 2 out of 80. And one of them, they really only picked up because the Democratic candidate was deeply flawed. He tried to use his position as an assemblyman to get out of a speeding ticket or a parking ticket or something like that. So even if Christie wasn't on the ballot, odds are he wasn't going to win re-election because he was a bad candidate. So you could really debate whether Christie's coattails really helped with that. So, and the other one, I guess it kind of helped. But so think about that. That means that thousands, hundreds of thousands of New Jersey voters split-ticketed. They voted Republican for governor, Democrat for assembly and state senate. That takes a lot of thinking on behalf of voters. So he had no coattails, which is something the media has not said, which shows that. And Chris Christie was asked about this yesterday, and I completely disagree with this answer. This was absolutely an election of personality over policy. Absolutely. Voters in New Jersey voted for Chris Christie because they like his, yo, Vinny, the Sopranos, tough guy, I'm going to beat you up kind of attitude. They did not vote for him because they like his policies. The biggest misconception that anyone can take away from this election is that it was an endorsement of his policy. It was not an endorsement of his policy. It was an endorsement of his personality. The exit polls in CNN said 51% would still vote for Hillary Clinton if they ran against him, and about 45% thought he would be a good president. So there were so many people who voted for him because they love his personality. But personally, I don't, but they loved his personality. But they wouldn't vote for him if he ran for president, nor would they think he'd be a good president. So they like him in New Jersey, but nowhere else. I thought that's interesting, and the media really missed that. And going back to this policy versus personality, and also policy and personality, but this also ties in with playing on an even playing field. He outraised Barbara 6-1. She wasn't a real candidate. So I think that when voters out there in the world, meaning the United States, realize when he runs for president, he'll be matched dollar for dollar, both in the primary and in the general. When they find out that they disagree, when swing voters and the wedge issue voters in Florida, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Virginia find out that he's against marriage equality, against women's right to choose, he's against raising the minimum wage, he's against public schools, and they also find out that New Jersey, under his leadership, has the 7th highest unemployment in the nation, has the 45th best business climate in the nation, and has 2.6 million living under the poverty line, the highest number in 50 years, they're not going to like him. When the truth about what he really believes and what his policies have done, or lack of policies have done, they're not going to like him. And nobody in New Jersey saw that because Barbara had no money to tell anybody that. Nobody in New Jersey really knew. I mean, I knew because I really follow this stuff. But Joe Schmo walking on the street didn't know that New Jersey had the 7th highest in unemployment. Didn't know that he cut $1 billion from education. Didn't know that he vetoed an assault weapons ban that he asked for. Nobody knew that because she had no money to tell anybody that. And when he runs for president and he's matched dollar for dollar, for every ad that he puts out, the Democrats are going to put out another one. And then people will finally recognize that. And I think the more we get to know the real Chris Christie and the more we get to know where he really stands on policy, policy's going to go up, personality's going to go down, and I think his numbers are going to suffer. And then this also kind of ties into, will he win the Republican nomination? He definitely has a good shot. But a lot of things that they'll bring up in the Republican nomination battle is they're going to say, he's been endorsed by over 50 Democrats in the state. So I could just imagine, Rick Santorum getting up on stage saying, this guy's been endorsed by more Democrats than Republicans. I could seriously see him saying that. Property taxes were up 15% under Christie's watch. They're going to hammer him with that. The economy is crap in New Jersey. All those numbers that I just said, they're going to hammer him with that. He's not a friend of the Tea Party, so it's yet to be seen whether he can really win South Carolina primary or Texas or Oklahoma or Iowa. That really is yet to be seen. And they're also going to hit him with, you're friends with President Obama. Obama is seen as the Stalin of the left. The right has an infatuation with hating President Obama. They're gonna say, I could just picture every television ad in the primary against Chris Christie. It's going to be a video of him giving a huge hug and a handshake and a smile to President Obama. And that is going to turn off Tea Partiers and even some mainstream Republicans in these deep southern states. And also something that I thought about is Chris Christie's going to make an argument, you don't necessarily agree with me on everything. He's going to say this to Republicans, but I'm the most electable. But in a sense, Mitt Romney made a similar argument. Now, yes, Mitt Romney and Chris Christie are two different people. But Mitt Romney made a similar argument. And look what happened to him. He lost in 2012. So you're going to have a lot on the right who are going to say, wait a minute. We bought into that argument in 2012. We were willing to support and take in a Massachusetts liberal as our Republican nominee because he was the most electable out of, Newt Gingrich, Rick Santorum, Rick Perry, who none of them would have had a shot. Mitt Romney had the best shot out of all of them. We were willing to take him in, and we still lost. We fell for it then. We're not going to fall for it now. So that's yet to be seen whether they're going to, I don't want to say fall for it again, but, is that argument going to fly? I don't know. Maybe they're going to say, we've been out of the White House for 8 years. Even though we bought into it, maybe we'll buy into it again. But I don't know. That's yet to be seen. So let me recap as I end this this video, and I look forward to your comments. This is only the beginning. So here's this summary. I think the media overblew this election. They got their analysis wrong because they didn't really understand why he won. I forgot to mention Hurricane Sandy. They only mentioned Hurricane Sandy once. I haven't seen the poll numbers, but I'm going to bet you that there were a lot of Democrats and independents who voted for Christie because they liked his response to Hurricane Sandy. So there you go. They didn't vote for him because they love his pro-life views. They voted for him because of Hurricane Sandy, which is not going to have any effect really on the 2016 election. So the media got this wrong. They overblew it. They overanalyzed it. I don't really think the media cares about issues anymore. Christie has become a celebrity to the media. They love the guy. They love his personality. They want good ratings. They want to sell newspapers. They've completely thrown policy in the wastebasket. They're feeding into the frenzy. They feed their own frenzy. I say that Chris Christie's only a celebrity because the media has made him a celebrity. Every time he blows his nose, there are 87 TV cameras there looking to see who he's going to call an idiot next. They have done this. If the media stopped talking about him and left him alone, he wouldn't be a celebrity anymore. But then again, that's what the media does. So they overblew this. They overanalyzed it. They got their analysis dead wrong. It was not as big of a win as... It was still a big win, but it was not as big as people think. He ran unopposed. He outraised his opponent, his fake opponent, 6-1. He had 8 ads on television for her, every 1 ad. It was an election of personality. It was an endorsement of a personality, not a policy endorsement, because voters didn't know where he stood on the issues. And I pray that when voters in these swing states, when he's matched dollar for dollar and ad for ad, when they realize and they're told and they're spoken to about how bad things really are in New Jersey, I think that voters, hopefully, maybe I overestimate voters a little too much, maybe they'll wise up and realize that things are not great in New Jersey, that he's been a leader in New Jersey in the sense that he's made people be proud to be from New Jersey, but policy-wise, he hasn't really done anything for New Jersey. There are still plenty of poor people, plenty of unemployed people, plenty of underemployed people, plenty of people who were still not back in their homes after Sandy. And I think when money is actually given to his opponent and airtime is actually given to his opponent, which if Hillary's his opponent, really whoever the Democrat is, there will be money and airtime. I think the real Chris Christie will be exposed, and I think that any race that he runs in will be a lot closer than people say it is. So there's something to ponder.